Welcome back to the show where we run you through all the Dolphins news you need to know about. After you through the news you need to know about, we run you through the fan Q&A where we answer fans' questions. Lots to talk about on today's show. Obviously, we're going to go through every draft pick, even Chop Robinson, who we did talk about last week, but I want to talk about him again this week. We're going to discuss the needs of the team, even after the draft. There are some news stories about that. What directions the team might go in. Obviously, everybody's waiting for the Xavier Howard salary to clear. There's only really one news story that's not draft related that we'll run through really quick before we get into the draft picks. This first news story comes from Pro Football Rumors. Dolphins owner Stephen Ross rejected $10 million offer to sell the Miami Dolphins. Well, this wasn't just the Dolphins. It's also some of the other things that he owns that revolves around Hard Rock Stadium, like the Formula One races that he holds there, and I'm sure like some entertainment stuff, and who knows what else was in that appraisal of whatever the heck was going on there. And it doesn't say who offered the money in the article, but if you guys want to read the rest of it, you can. There's really nothing interesting here. I think I don't really. I've always disagreed with the Stephen Ross stuff, in my opinion, and I've always disagreed with him being an overly bearing owner. I think he's done every regime he's ever had, given them a lot of sometimes too much leeway, and obviously he's never been cheap in free agency, and he does spare no expense when it comes to the team, and that's what you want in an owner. And I'm glad we have an owner like that as opposed to other owners like a Brown or what's his name, Paul Brown's son, who owns the Bengals. You know, owners like that, you do not want owners like that. Those are the worst, you know. Or you could have a Haslam who is a little bit too hands-on, or even a David Tepper who's, you know, someone like that who's like just not a great owner. So I've always liked Stephen Ross as an owner, so I'm glad that he's still here. He's obviously a much older man since when he bought the team, even he was an older man then. So there's been questions about who's going to take over the team after that, so maybe that was in consideration for that. I don't really know. Like, there's been a lot of different articles written about who will take over for him when he either passes away or maybe he decides to step down in some way. But to me, I've always thought the hate for him is way, way, way too much. So let's get into the draft. We'll talk about some stuff the Dolphins might be doing after the draft. There's some little sits and bits here. Didn't mean, you know, it's and bits is probably the better way to say it. Anyway, Chop Robinson is an interesting pick for a lot of different reasons. This is one of the weirdest. I think, to me, this is the weirdest draft that I've ever had on, like, since I've been doing this. It's the weirdest draft. Not even close. This is a lot of different opinions on this draft. So let's start with Chop Robinson. He has everything that everybody says about him. He has a lot of upside. Yes, he's very explosive. Yes, he's very fast. Is he a good defensive end, though? Yeah, we know he's a great athlete, but is he a good defensive end? He's very raw as a defensive end. He doesn't have a lot of moves. The whole thing about him not having a lot of power, you see sometimes he does use speed to power. You see a bull rush. And sometimes when he tries it, it's terrible, and it's actually like jaw-droppingly bad, and I've watched a lot more of Chop since the draft, since we picked him. And yes, sometimes it is bad. And it is noticeable. And And one of the other things there are concerns, like that's one of the concerns, is he's almost it's like insanely like raw when it comes to rushing the passer. I mean, even he said it himself. It's like, I need to use my hands more. It's like, yeah, it's kind of the whole thing. It's kind of the whole position is using your hands. He doesn't have too many moves that you see him use. And another thing that really concerns me about him is finishing plays. When he makes a play, when he gets into the backfield, finishing plays, he misses a lot of plays. He would have more sacks if he could finish at the quarterback. And what concerns me about that is this is the NFL. So there's a lot of quarterbacks that are big and strong, and there's a lot of them that are elusive, and it's like he has all of this athleticism, but does it translate to his position and playing well at that position? And sometimes it's like not all of it does, which is very concerning with him. And it's very concerning, especially in a division like with Josh Allen. Like, he's missing sacks, and he just needs to polish his game. He played in college for 3 solid seasons, two of which he was a starter. From those 2 years as the starter, you didn't see a ton of like jump of like, okay, he's learning stuff. I'm not a defensive end expert when it comes to like, I've never played defensive end in the NFL, so I don't know how hard it is going to be to teach him this stuff, because he's in the NFL now. And to be that raw of a prospect is concerning, to just jump into the big, the league, and we'll see what happens. I hope he's not like, there's so many players that we could bring up that have like, oh, he's got all of this, and it's like, yeah, but it never showed up on the field, and that's a tale as old as time in any sport. So I just hope it works out. I'm not the biggest fan of him as a player. I hate to say that. I like defensive ends that are two-way defensive ends that you can stop the run and you're a 3-down guy, and especially if you're picked in the first round. The good news is, and this is my favorite thing about this pick, he's not going to be counted on as that player. Maybe early on, but we'll see. Maybe not even early on, depending on how fast Jalen Phillips gets back, because it could just be Shaquille Barrett and Phillips to start the year. So it's a great depth to have, and it's nice that he's not going to be thrown into the fire and learning we're relying on him to be, like, if this was the 2019 roster, it's like, yeah, we kind of need him to be that. So we don't need him to be that. We just need him to develop. And if he can put the pieces together, and as cliche as that is, then he can become a great player, because he's physically, what everybody says about him, a great athlete. And he is a great athlete. But yeah, those are the two things. He is like, very raw as a defensive end. Doesn't defend, doesn't set the edge as much as you would like. Which I actually think that part of his game is a little bit. I wasn't like, oh, this guy is like Charles Harris. Like, I didn't think that about him. So I don't really necessarily want to say that. I think that part of, like, he can definitely unlock that part, which is a good thing. I don't think he's incapable of that. So I don't really want to say that. I think the two things that concern me is, how long is it going to take for him to learn these things as a pass rusher, and to gain these skills, and him being able to finish plays when the plays present themselves. I think is going to be, because if you couldn't do it in college, then this is a whole nother animal. So those are the two things that concern me about Chop. If it works out though, phenomenal pick, because it does help. And we'll get into that later. We'll move on to the other pick, the next pick, the second round. So the second round, obviously big deal. A lot of different prospects are here. And with the second pick, the Dolphins in the second round took tackle Patrick Paul, who ginormous human being, 6'7", 330 pounds. I actually really like this pick a lot. For so many different reasons. I love the way Mike McDaniel broke it down. It seemed like a player that he really wanted. And, this is a man who was a run game coordinator. And this is the thing that I most like about this pick. It's the fact that Mike McDaniel seemed to have wanted this player. He's a run game coordinator. He was a run game coordinator for years. So he's very familiar with tackles and guards and centers and trench play. So he knows what good linemen look like. And his opinion is, I think, very credible when it comes to players like this. So the fact that he saw a lot in this player, and he raved about how obviously he's a very big human being, 6'7", but he's a great athlete. This is someone like Orlando Brown Jr., who came out of Oklahoma years ago. That was the thing about him. Big dude, but he could barely move. That was the kind of knock on him. Obviously, he ended up turning out anyway. But that's the difference with Patrick Paul, is he has these great physical tools, and he can really move well. And I really like this pick as a fan, because obviously the trenches have been an issue. I know some people are like, can he play guard? I don't really expect him to play guard. He is very big to play that position. And I would rather him just kind of get reps at tackle anyway. So this is a player who could really become a franchise tackle. Even watching him play, I'm like, he looks to me, I really like him. I really like this pick for those reasons. He definitely gives us an option for when Teron Armstead retires, which might be this season, which is great planning. And I think that he can really become a great player. Which I thought this was kind of a steal in the second round to get a tackle that has this much upside. And like I said, the fact that Mike McDaniel really raved about him, I think matters. And I trust him and this team to pick players when it comes to that. So I really like Patrick Paul. I think he could really be a very good tackle for us for many years. So I really liked this pick more than the first pick in getting Chop. This pick was great. I know there's a very controversial pick among Dolphins fans. The Dolphins trade up, give up a future third round pick to the Philadelphia Eagles to draft running back Jalen Wright out of Tennessee. Now this is probably like, if we were going in, which we were going in order at the time, this would have been my favorite pick so far of the draft. Even though Patrick Paul probably is a more important pick, but obviously as fans, we all love skill position players, and Jalen Wright is a great player. Obviously everybody's been raving about his combine time, but it's more than that. He's great at the position. He's a bigger player to be that fast. He's 5'10", 210 pounds. He does run a little bit high, which is fine. Great patience. I mean, like Le'Veon Bell-like patience. I love that about him. And it's not too patient, where he's going to get killed in the backfield. He doesn't know what he's doing. Phenomenal vision. Love his vision. And great one-cut ability, which is what Mike McDaniel really loves. Is running for his players to be able to do that. And if you look at his numbers last year, played 12 games, 1,000 yards rushing, averaged 7 yards a carry, so almost 7.5 yards a carry. So I love this pick. I think this is a phenomenal pick. Jalen Wright could become a Pro Bowl type player. Great athlete, great just at the position in general. There's really nothing he does that I hate. And I love his ability to decipher things at the line of scrimmage. I think is his best skill. And his one cut is nasty. Phenomenal pick. Love this pick. This is the best backfield we've had in almost, it's got to be over 8, almost 10 years. Probably over 10 years. This backfield is disgusting. and obviously Raheem Mostert, who's 32 years old. We dealt with a ton of injuries last year at the running back position with Chris Brooks, Raheem Mostert, Devon Achane missing games. So this was a great pick, man. I love this pick. This is a player who can come in and really help the Dolphins right now, and can become a special player. I really love this pick. Loved watching him. And I watched him now. I didn't even when I didn't know he was going to be a Dolphin. The game against Texas A&M, which I think my brother had bet on Tennessee, so we were rooting for Tennessee that day, and he was the entire offense. So I really like Jalen Wright. Great player. Don't really understand the criticism of this pick. This is an impact player, which is what Dolphins fans want right now, even though he does play right. Oh, and by the way, another thing to mention about him. Great. I think he's a phenomenal pass protector, too. So, I think this is a steal of a pick. And I'm really looking forward to watching him play, because just everything that I love in a running back he's got. Now, you could say, his receiving numbers aren't great, but you can see that he was used in the pass game. A little bit, and mostly with just like bubble screens. So that side of his game is definitely like, we don't really know. But I love this pick. I think he's going to really win over the Dolphins fans, especially in preseason and going into the regular season. And this really is nice because I think this helps the run game out a lot, and it ensures that we're never really going to lose any firepower at that position. And we were relying on two players that have not a great injury history. When it comes to Achane, who's a smaller player, and then obviously Mostert, who doesn't have a really good, and he's older. So Achane and Wright should be a really good duo for the Miami Dolphins for many years. This is when the Dolphins, like, this was these next two picks, it's like, oh my god. Finally, players I just love, like, before the draft, going into the draft. These are players that I know of and that I really like. Jalen Wright is obviously one of them, and then Muhammad Kamara. I remember watching the Colorado game against Colorado State. Obviously, Colorado was a big story because of Deion Sanders. And that was the first thing I thought of when we drafted him, where he literally single-handedly almost won them that game. They ended up losing that game, but he was phenomenal in that game. Love the attitude that he plays with. Like, he plays mean, and that's, fans have continued to talk about that, of like, oh, we kind of need that. And remember, we're running the Ravens defense with Anthony Weaver, who comes from that culture. This is a perfect fit for that. And Muhammad Kamara, like, the way he plays, his personality, like, I love this pick. This is a great pick. I know some people have, in terms of criticisms with him, in terms of like analysts, they say he's a little bit undersized. That doesn't really ever matter when you watch him play. This is a guy who has a ton of production in college. This is almost like the complete opposite of Chop Robinson. Very explosive, very strong. His bull rush is disgusting. He really reminds me of like a Matthew Judon. I think Matthew Judon's a lot bigger than him, but it just kind of reminded me of that type of a player. Even though there's a size, I'm pretty sure there's like a good amount of size difference there. Not caught up on the Matthew Judon's height and weight, but I love this pick. Great pass rusher, can set the edge in the run game. This was a steal. I don't really know why he fell this far. I know maybe it's because some people think because of his size, he's maybe not necessarily a 3-down guy. But I could see him totally become. There have been undersized guys that have become that, like Dwight Freeney. People have brought up someone said Robert Mathis. I don't know how big Robert Mathis was, but Dwight Freeney obviously was an undersized player. I mean, there have been undersized players who have become great players, like even Zach Thomas, obviously a different position, but the same criticism, and ended up being one of the greatest. Went to the Hall of Fame. great, one of the better middle linebackers of all time. So I love this pick. Mean streak, perfect Ravens pass rusher type. Like I said, plays with an attitude. Great pass rusher, very explosive. And another thing, finishes at the point of attack. This man does not miss plays. Whether it's hitting someone in the backfield for a 5-8 yard loss or sacking the quarterback, he doesn't miss. He makes the most out of it, and he finishes plays. So, and I do think he has 3-down potential for sure. He could be a 3-down player in this league. So, this is a great pick who can become, in the future, a really good Dolphin for many years. So, the way that the Dolphins have reloaded this rotation in the pass rush could become very scary, and really reloaded, and has the potential to become really special. So I love Muhammad Kamara. I cannot wait to watch him play in a Dolphins uniform. And he had 17 TFLs in 2023, which is insane. And I really like him. I think he's going to be a really good player. This next pick, too, man. I forgot about this. I don't know why. When I say I forgot because as I was talking about Muhammad Kamara, I forgot this guy was the next pick. Those last two picks I loved, and I love this pick. Love this pick. Could be possibly my favorite pick so far, even though it came in the 6th round, and you don't usually say that. And I don't know, when you really think about it, I don't know. This next pick, the Dolphins in the 6th round select Malik Washington. Did I say when Muhammad was in the 5th round? But Malik Washington was selected in the 6th round. Now, you want to talk about production. He had, in his last season at Virginia, 1,400 yards on 110 catches on a very bad Virginia team in a relatively good division. I mean, he played some good competition, which was a good thing. He played I think he played Florida State. He played some other good teams too as well. 1,400 yards on 10 catches, averaged 13 yards a catch. Really good after the catch as well. And he did a lot of his damage in the slot, which is exactly what we needed. We needed a slot receiver. That third guy has been an issue for years. We need someone who can do some of the dirty work, catch a 5-yard hook, turn it into a 15-yard gain, really dominate the middle of the field, put pressure on the middle of the field, really open up the offense, and to really have a threat in a 3-receiver set, which we really didn't have before. And obviously it's been a big emphasis in this offseason when it comes to trying to get that guy. So I watched a lot of Malik Washington. I think he can be a great slot receiver for those reasons. A great route, great hands, hence the 110 catches. He's obviously an undersized guy, which isn't the best, but it doesn't matter. We needed a slot receiver. And this guy has the potential to become a fun, a great match with Tua too in the quick passing game. Someone that he can rely on, who is always going to be in the right spot. Great route runner. They could develop really good chemistry together. And he has the potential to become a really good slot player in this league. Really smart player, older player. I think he was in college for 5 seasons. Maybe that's another reason why he wasn't drafted as high. Obviously not a very big player. He's only how tall is he? He's only 5'9", which is fine for what I hope we ask him to do, which is play in the slot. But obviously he had 4 years at Northwestern. Didn't do too. I mean, he had good seasons there, 600 yards his last year there, almost 7, 500 yards the year before that. So he is an older player, but he really just came onto the scene with Virginia, and this was a match made in heaven, in my opinion, especially with Mike McDaniel, who's really good at working with receivers. I cannot wait to watch him play. This is a very unique 6th round pick, for sure. and could really help with, like, now we don't know, and this is, who knows what Malik Washington's going to be. This is why I can't wait to watch him play. But if he is what I think he could become, this lineup is way better than last year in terms of, especially at the skill positions. At tight end with Jonnu Smith. Now you got Malik Washington in the slot. Jalen Wright, who is a really good running back. Like, this is where I think the Dolphins really turned me around when it comes to, like, my thoughts on this draft. Were those four picks. I like Patrick Paul, but I love the Jalen Wright, Muhammad Kamara, Malik Washington picks. I think those three guys can really help the team. I think Malik is an impact player now, and I think same thing with, like, Jalen Wright. I think those two are gonna come in and do some really good things for us. So this next pick, the Dolphins picked in the, I believe this was the 6th round or the 7th round. Oh, this is the 6th round as well. Patrick Cook-Morris, safety out of California. Not Colorado. I haven't watched almost none of Patrick Cook-Morris, so I can't give you my opinion on him. I apologize. So we're going to skip him. Could become a good special teams guy. I don't know too much about him. And in the 7th round, the Dolphins draft Taj Washington out of USC. Could be a great spot. I think the reason we drafted him was to be a returner. Which I think he's really good at, which is good because we needed one, and we really only had Braxton Berrios, so I think this is a really good pick when it comes to special teams. As a receiver, I don't really know. He's a smaller player. He's not as refined as Malik Washington. I don't really know what his role would be on the team. He's an explosive player. I just don't really see where he fits in the offense. So I think his way onto the team and making an impact early on would be on special teams. He's another smaller receiver. He's only 5'9". More of a speed guy. And like I said, he's not as savvy as a Malik Washington, who really has a lot of tools. And I think he's more of a complete receiver come out of college than someone like a Taj Washington, who's more of a special teams player. So I don't really expect him to make any plays. He could develop into that. Not saying he couldn't. As more of a deep threat, maybe. Maybe like in a Robbie Anderson, maybe type of a role. Didn't do a ton of run blocking USC either. So I don't know I don't really know what his role would be on the offense. Couldn't really think of one. He's more of a special teams guy, so I actually think it was a very good pick because that is a position that we needed. So that was it. Overall thoughts on this draft. It's a weird draft. Didn't really love the first round at all. Could have gotten more, maybe an interior lineman there. Would have been a better decision in my opinion. But I loved everything after that. I do like Patrick Paul. I think he's going to be a good player. And it's a great insurance for when Armstead retires. I know people are yapping now, but when Armstead's out the door, you're going to be glad that we have him. Jalen Wright, love the pick. I think he could become a Pro Bowl running back in the NFL. Really love that. Muhammad Kamara, love him as a defensive player. Like a old school Ravens outside linebacker. Wasn't Elvis Dumerville really small too? I'm pretty sure he was like 5'11". So there's been a lot of really good Ravens-like guys in that. Not a lot. I shouldn't say a lot. But there have been players at the outside linebacker or edge player positions that can play that position at a high level. So the size doesn't really matter to me, man. I really love Muhammad Kamara. He doesn't really have a lot of downsides either, or any that I saw in my opinion anyway. So I love that pick too, and obviously Malik Washington. Like we've needed for the last 2 years, especially when Mike got here, a third receiver, a third option, someone who can play the slot position at a high level. And I think Malik can do that. And we haven't had that. I mean, we thought Braxton could do it, and he definitely didn't do that. And this is the closest thing that we've had to that. And obviously working with Wes Welker, hopefully. I honestly think this is the type of player that isn't going to take a lot of time to become a good player. So I think he can make an impact this season, which is very exciting. Now, will this sway the Dolphins from going out and getting an Odell Beckham? I have no idea. But I'm actually pretty comfortable with just, if that was the 3, I'm like, yeah, if Malik Washington can do what I think he can, that's a very good lineup. So I actually like this draft. I think it's a good draft. Didn't like round 1. That's the only thing I could criticism. If we came out of there with like a Graham Barton or someone like that someone like that, I think I would feel a little bit better about the first round, obviously. But other than that, I really liked the draft. I think it was a very good draft, and a lot of players in here that I think can do a lot of good for this team. So I really liked it other than the first round. Now, as of other news, when it comes to, or positions of need, I know I've seen a lot of people bring up defensive tackle. Anytime, and this is something I want to say, anytime anyone brings up, the Dolphins need interior players, I feel like people forget that Zach Sealer's on this team, who's a very good interior player. And yes, they signed a bunch of guys who are rotational guys, but they act like they have nobody there. But Zach Sealer is there. So it's like that, it's Zach Sealer, it's probably T.R. Tart at this point. So yeah, maybe they could, Omar Kelly said something interesting where he was like, he thinks that they have something up their sleeve and are going to make a move for interior player. I don't know who in the world that could be at this point, but I thought that was interesting, something that I wanted to bring up. So yeah, I would say keep your eye on that, I guess. Who knows who's out there? I do think it's silly that people like Omar Kelly are pounding the table for someone like Calais Campbell, who's 37 years old and cannot move like he used to. He's not the same. He's not even close. Like, he's over the hill. So I'm not really sold on that. So I don't know what their moves could be. I'm not too concerned about it though. I think the players that they signed can do their job, which is stop the run. We have pass rushers. It's not like we can't rush the passer. We have people that can get after the quarterback. That's not really a problem. We broke the franchise record for sacks last season, and I thought we did. And like I said, especially with this draft, I think we did a good job of really retooling that the pass rush and adding more firepower to it. So, and if Chop can put it together, then it's even better. So, in terms of needs, maybe go out and get a veteran receiver and a defensive tackle. I've seen some Justin Simmons stuff. I just, anytime someone brings that up with the Dolphins, I just don't understand what in the world he would do on the team. He's a great player, but how, then what would you do with Jordan Poyer? I just don't really understand that. So Justin Simmons is a weird one. Maybe you would put him in a slot or something like that. I don't know. I really don't know what you would do with Justin Simmons. So I don't think he does much for the team, unless you just want to get rid of Poyer and have Simmons and Holland. And just have Poyer walk around the building, which I don't think they're gonna do. So, yeah, in terms of free agency, there's not a whole lot that sticks out to me right now. Maybe, I think it's more likely that you could get either trade for, or someone gets maybe rid of more of a veteran guy in the interior O-line, maybe. But to get a defensive tackle at this point in the offseason is kind of difficult to do. So I don't really think it's as big of a need as everybody makes it out to be number one. Literally people act like this is the make or break of the roster. It's not. It's not even close to being that big of a hole. So I disagree with that. In terms of biggest needs, I would say maybe I would say interior line would be number one on my list. Interior line. I think that right now is the biggest need for the team. I love the additions that we made to it. I think we need at least one more. I'm hoping Connor comes back in some kind of capacity. It would be nice to move him to guard, keep Brewer at center. I think that's a better idea. But adding one more interior lineman, to me, I think, would be really nice. And we'll see what they do. And if they invest in it or not. I know we got the Eagles guard for depth, who hasn't started a ton of games. I don't think over the last 2 years. Well, he's always been more of a depth guy. So yeah, I don't know. I think that would, to me, be the most interesting of positions would be, or the biggest thing would be inside interior line. It's gonna be interesting to see what they do. I mean, we've heard nothing but these beat reporters talk about like what's gonna happen after these. So it does kind of feel like they know something's gonna happen. You've heard a lot of that, or maybe you just have no idea what they're talking about. I have no idea. I don't know what they're gonna do with this money. Maybe they just extend the players that they have. Like, I really don't know. But I'm not expecting too much. I'm not expecting like a huge signing or anything like that. I like what they've done this offseason. Maybe they can add a veteran guy at the receiver position, like Odell. It would still be pretty awesome if they could do that. Who can do all types of stuff for the offense. They still have Eric Ezukama too on the roster, who I'm still excited for. I think people just forget about him, but he looked really good before he got hurt. And the way that they were using him in the run game was really cool. So I'm still excited about that as well. But I really like the draft. I think the biggest thing after is still, I would say, interior line. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you guys enjoyed. Really, the first round, I liked it. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below about the draft. Seems Dolphins fans liked it. At least initially after the draft. I've seen some more criticisms of it. Days after. I don't know if that's because they're listening to some guy or whatever. But to me, it seemed like Dolphins fans enjoyed the draft, which is good. And I think it was a good draft, especially round 2 and on. So that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed. See you guys in the next one.